Hey there, I'm Todd on High, and today I'm showcasing another build for the Division 2. I call it Vile Jammer, for obvious reasons, and it's an effective build for group PvE play. If you're looking for something to do with your Vile mask besides pair it with Eclipse Protocol or Ongoing Directive, you've come to the right place. Vile Jammer relies on the gear talents of Skilled and Perfect Shock and Awe, but also heavily leans on the strengths of the mechanical animal named SIG-556. Let's jump in. This build works great for marking and damaging numerous enemies by applying the Vile Dot over a large area, bursting groups of enemies down with a well-placed Stinger Hive, and stunning electronic enemies. First off, what works so well about this build is that it applies unavoidable damage through surfaces, both vertically and horizontally, since the pulse goes out in a sphere. Not only will Jammer Pulse hit enemies who hide in cover, it will hit enemies who have barely spawned and not entered the room yet. If there's a red mark on your minimap, they can be hit by the Jammer, even if they can't be hit by other skills. Where a Seeker or Turret will wait until the enemy crosses a threshold, the Jammer will reach them and apply the status effect and damage over time effect. Your tactics with this build start with running in as close as you dare while firing off your pulse, hitting as many mobs as you can. This will apply the Disrupt status effect to all enemies in range, stunning some of them, including electronics and turret panels if they're in range, as well as proc Shock and Awe, which will increase your skill damage. Next, you'll want to toss your Stinger Hive in a place where it will be effective, then try to proc Overcharge via your mechanical animal. The Overcharge effect is helpful whenever it kicks in. If your Hive is active, it increases the range and the Stingers move incredibly fast as of Title Update 10.1. If it's on cooldown, it will replenish your Stinger charges very quickly. Plus, it makes the Jammer Pulse range enormous. For attributes, this is obviously a skill build, so it's best to go with 6 yellow cores. Instead of Technician, stick with Survivalist for the status effect buff, and, to be honest, the Crossbow, as it can be helpful in certain cases. Plus, you'll be swimming in Specialist ammo, with status affected enemies dying left and right. Fire grenades are also great for applying a status effect if your pulse is on cooldown, or if you're disrupted yourself. Gear-wise, I set out to create a status effects build for the Vile Mask without using a gear set. The trade-off of effects like Eclipse Protocol provides a loss of 4 attribute rolls as well as brand set bonuses, and it's not always a worthwhile exchange. Start with a 3-piece China Light and 2-piece Wyvern Wear, with your substats going to status effects and a mixture of skill damage and haste as you see fit. As long as you've already gotten your Vile Mask from Season Rank 90, it's fairly easy to put this build together. You can even craft some of the pieces. I chose to use the named China Light backpack here for the perfect talent, but Shock and Awe works just slightly better than something like Tech Support. If you watch this channel at all, then you know I have a lot of love for Creeping Death, but it's not necessary here due to the wide area that the pulse already covers. For a primary weapon, technically any gun with Future Perfect will work fine, but the mechanical animal does have the perfect version of this talent, so it's favored over other options. The only downside of the SIG-556 is that the Technician laser pointer doesn't fit on the underbarrel slot, which is not an issue for this build. In choosing a secondary weapon, I tried a few with mixed results. My first choice was a different assault rifle with the Vindictive talent, a nice buff for your squad, but as I started to have more trouble taking out heavies, I switched to the ever-popular Baker's Dozen. The thing is, the cooldown is so long on the mechanical animal that you can almost use any secondary gun you want and just switch the mechanical animal to proc Overcharge. Unlike many weapon talents, the Overcharge effect of Future Perfection does stay active even if you switch to your other weapon. The drawbacks with this build are Much like with other damage-based skill builds, you are paper thin, and armor kits are your only self-sustain, so avoiding damage is a must. Heavy gunners, particularly armored heavies, can be a major obstacle unless you have a quick and practiced way of handling them. Heavy gunners who post up outside pulse range make solo play difficult due to your paper thinness. The jammer pulse cannot be entirely relied upon to stun. The only things it's guaranteed to stun are electronics, but any humans it stuns are a bonus. And if an enemy is already disrupted, whether by another player or an exploding warhound, your pulse does not apply the vial effect, so more than one of these builds in a group will decrease efficiency. You certainly can't face tank, but soloing challenging missions or doing open world activities in this build are fairly easy and enjoyable. Heroic is a little different as far as soloing, but to be honest, this skill build is more for fun than it is for top damage or fast completion. The dot applied by the Vial Mask means you can bring Jammer Pulse into any content, not just Black Tusk missions, and still be effective. It's even better if you're in a group. Obviously, the Jammer Pulse is a must-have, as that is a major source of your damage in this build. Just don't ever try to reapply it to an enemy that's already disrupted, as you'll be tempted to do when skilled procs. The Stinger Hive, especially with a +4 charges mod, is also hugely effective at 6 skill tiers, and when that overcharge procs, the enemies hiding in cover just beyond the normal effect radius will start feeling the pain. It's not a must as a second skill, but it does also proc a status effect, so it complements this build quite well. Feel free to experiment if you've got an idea that will work better for a secondary. And that's it. If you have any questions about the build or spot any major errors, let me know, and definitely circle back with a comment if you try this build out. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy this sort of content, please drop a like and subscribe. Good luck out there, agents, and happy farming!